The audiobook market just hit a staggering milestone, 25% growth in a single year. But here's what's really mind-blowing. Artificial intelligence is about to completely transform how these books reach our ears.
That growth is incredible. And the timing couldn't be better for this AI revolution in audiobook production.
Let me share something that really puts this in perspective. I recently spoke with an independent author who invested $5,000 in traditional audiobook production, studio time, professional narrator, editing. That's actually on the lower end of the spectrum.
Those costs are exactly why this new partnership between ElevenLabs and Findaway Voices by Spotify is such a game changer. It's completely removing those financial barriers.
You know what's fascinating about this whole development? It's not just about making things cheaper. It's about democratizing the entire audiobook creation process. Think about all those amazing stories that never made it to audio format because of those financial barriers.
Hmm. That reminds me of how digital publishing transformed the written book market. Remember when traditional publishers were the only gateway to reaching readers?
Exactly. And now we're seeing a similar revolution in audio. Authors can use AI voices through ElevenLabs to narrate their books, then publish directly to Spotify and other major retailers through Findaway Voices, all with zero upfront costs.
So, what happens to the revenue split in this new model?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Authors keep 100% of their royalties when premium listeners stream their content on Spotify and 80% on other platforms. Compare that to traditional publishing royalties, which often hover around 15 to 25%.
That's such a dramatic shift in the economics. But what about the quality? Aren't we sacrificing something by removing the human element?
That's, that's actually a crucial point. But the technology has advanced dramatically. These aren't the robotic voices we're used to. The AI can now capture natural cadence, emotional resonance, and even subtle tonal shifts.
You know what I find fascinating about this? The potential for multiple language versions. Traditional audiobook production in different languages would be prohibitively expensive.
Exactly right. And that's where this technology really shines. Authors can potentially create versions in Spanish, French, German, and Mandarin, all at a fraction of what it would cost to hire native speakers.
How does the actual process work for authors who want to try this?
It's surprisingly straightforward. Authors upload their manuscript to ElevenLabs Studio in any common format: PDF, epub, Word documents. Then they use editing tools to fine-tune the narration, adjusting pace, tone, and emphasis. Once it's perfect, they click Publish to Spotify to get their file, create a Findaway Voices account, and they're ready for distribution.
That level of simplicity could really open up the market. What about transparency with listeners?
They've thought that through carefully. Every AI-narrated audiobook is clearly marked in the metadata, with a statement that reads, "This audiobook is narrated by a digital voice," at the beginning of the description. No hidden surprises for listeners.
That kind of transparency builds trust. How do you see this affecting the broader publishing industry?
Um, I think we're going to see several major shifts. First, expect a surge in audiobook availability, particularly in underserved categories: technical books, academic works, local histories. Second, we might see more experimental pricing models since production costs are lower.
Those changes could really transform listening habits and consumer behavior.
Absolutely right. And here's something else to consider. Authors might start thinking about audio versions even during the writing process, crafting their prose with AI narration in mind.
That's fascinating. How do you think traditional publishers will adapt?
Well, I expect we'll see a hybrid approach. Smart publishers will likely use AI narration for certain titles, maybe backlist books or experimental projects, while keeping human narrators for flagship titles, where that personal touch really matters.
What advice would you give to authors considering this technology?
Start small, maybe with a novella or short story collection. Test the technology, understand the editing tools, gather listener feedback. And remember, while the technology makes production easier, it doesn't replace the need for quality writing and thorough editing.
That's such practical advice. What about the future potential?
We might see personalized audiobook experiences where listeners can choose from different voices or mix and match voices for different characters. The technology could evolve to handle more complex narrative structures, like multiple viewpoints or experimental formats.
Those possibilities sound incredible for both creators and listeners.
We're really witnessing a pivotal moment in publishing history. Just as self publishing transformed the written book market, AI narration is about to revolutionize the audiobook industry. It's not just about accessibility, it's about opening up new possibilities for storytelling that we haven't even imagined yet.
That's such an inspiring way to look at it. It really is about expanding possibilities rather than replacing what exists.
Exactly. And for authors listening, remember, this technology is just another tool in your creative arsenal. The most important thing is still telling compelling stories that resonate with your audience, regardless of how they're delivered.